All right, so I don't even think people have even heard of the GAT11 yet. So 4311 update, they're still shredding. You know what I mean? We have adopted the same changes that we have had for, because it's a different manufacturer, but we've adopted the same changes that we have changed the VEX into this next slew of 4311s that are coming up. You know, and it's been out now for, you know, closer to 2 years. And once again, when you have something in the market that long, you have a ton of data to draw from. That was one of the reasons why we didn't want to come out of the gate with the double stack version prematurely, because we want things to be as perfect as we can. And so now we're working on the GAT11, which for those of you who don't know, that's going to be the name of the double stack version. Because I mean, if you don't know what a GAT is, then I don't know, man. Get your what's that dictionary called? Your slang dictionary out or whatever. And it's a catchy name, and I like, you know, 4311 X, Evo X. You know, I mean, I like shorter names. I like it. You know, so the GAT11 is going to be the double stack version of what the 4311 is. So it is going to be the same thing. It is going to be what we would call a receiver-based, fully cocked striker Glock trigger. And the revisions that we've had so far have just been amazing. You know, the one thing with the 4311 that I can always say I just don't love, because I cut my teeth on Gen 3s and I'm always used to a wall further out in a break. And when you watch the, you know, 4311 versus the Evolution X, you can see that difference in those two. So bringing the GAT11 to market, I wanted it to have more characteristics like the Evolution X than the 4311. And that's basically what we're doing right now. We're working on all those, you know, how do we make that happen? You know, like I said, we always start with safety. And, you know, because we have the blueprint of the 4311, we know the tolerances, we know what we can and what we can't do in order to achieve we're just using that blueprint, achieve the performance that we want. So we're taking all that knowledge and now we're transposing it onto the other platform. But like I said, it's a system within a platform. Even though Glock's, the Slimline platform is very different than especially when you're looking at Gen 1 through 5. You know, and that's another big thing with this. You know, it's especially as a trigger, you know, someone selling triggers, I hate having like Gen 1 through 3 and then Gen 4 and then Gen 5, especially because right now, Glock only sells to California for the Gen 3. They don't even sell they haven't sold the Gen 4 in so long. They'll still service it, but it's like, you know, it's not a fast moving trigger. And it's like, so to have all these different triggers is just like, to me, it's not efficient. So what we designed was a proprietary housing that can be used across generations. And so, and I don't care if you have a dagger or if you have a Poly 80 or, you know, a lone wolf or even a shadow. Now we have the penumbra for the shadow systems, but we're made this so it can drop into the shadow systems too. We've had no issues. Like we've had no issues with the 4311 and the shadow system CRs. We've had no issues with what we've tested so far with the GAT11 in the XR, MR, and DR. So it's going to be across the board, just one singular trigger. And that's another thing. The guys have been really bummed out. They'll be like, hey, well, my Gen 5 trigger, I just got a Gen 3 or I just got a dagger. Can I transfer that out? And I'm like, no, you can't. They're different housings. But with this, and I've had friends say, well, that's not the greatest business model. You could sell 2 triggers instead of 1. And I'm like, I don't think of it that way. I think the innovation is cooler than the fact that I'm going to lose the sale, because I'm not going to lose in the long run, because you just don't. When you're thinking, if you're thinking financially about everything, hang it up, bro. You know what I mean? Seriously, hang it up. If you're thinking about creating great, cool products for people, then you're always going to be there doing that. You know, it's like we said, like, so Timney comes out with a trigger, we made it better. The Glock Performance trigger comes out, we made it better. You know what I mean? So trigger comes out, and so we don't know yet. But yeah, that's so that's the thing, you know. It's making things as cool as possible is just that's really where the juice is. So with this GAT11, we're really excited to just make it everything that we wanted to make it. Like I said, you're not going to beat the Evolution X for what it is. For all Glock parts, for duty carry, forget it. You're just not going to get better than it. I truly don't believe that. That's why I'm like, everyone's like, when are you coming out with a new trigger? I'm like, why? You know, come out with a new trigger shoe for the Evolution X, you know, which makes it better. But you know, now it's just as good as the Evolution X, but different. You know what I mean? But now the GAT 11 is very, very, very similar. You know, the only difference is that, like, a lot of people that are Glock guys, they want OEM parts. And that's where the rubber meets the road with those two. But when I do a side-by-side, when we get it finally and we do the, you know, the trigger pull test, they might as well be a mirror, you know, from what we're seeing. And then, like I said, we're going down this road of starting with all that. We really decided with this, we want to kind of invite people into it. So we're going to have a lot more social media that shows, like, because we went through a lot of that with the 4311. Like, you know, we thought we had it, and then all of a sudden the whole thing falls apart. And we're like, oh, you know, we got to start over again. There's a serious issue that we found because we've run it through so many different, you know, at round 16,000, we ran into problems. So now you have to go back and start all over. And I'm sure we're going to run into that with the GAT 11 too. So we thought that would be cool to, like, actually have, you know, our followers be part of that. I thought that was really cool. Like, let them see really what it is like to bring a trigger to life. And then they'll know, like, oh yeah, these guys just aren't throwing something together and say, hey, we did this. You know what I mean? They'll see there's a process. It's like heat treating. How do you do that? You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along with it. So that's kind of the update with the GAT 11.